Hi, Sean. Good morning. Welcome to Life in the Suburbs with Sharon.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This is awesome.
This is pretty cool. As this unravels, people can see this is kind of a cool space for both Sean and I to be connecting in this way. So let me just get started real quick. So this is my newest podcast, Life in the Suburbs with Sharon. I'm a wife, mom, and I'm a resident here in Whitemarsh Township. I am also a real estate agent, and I wanted to bring to this community of the suburbs of Philadelphia all the cool people that I've met over my entire life living in Philadelphia suburbs. I've lived in Whitemarsh now for 25 years, but grew up in Lower Merion. So over these years, I've just realized like how totally cool this region and really our community is, and how many people that we can present to others, to our listeners, just to introduce them to how cool the community is. Um, so today we are speaking with Sean Boyle. He is the managing partner at Momentum 360. I've actually known Sean, well, not forever, but almost his whole life. He grew up with my son Jacob, my older son Jacob, and they played baseball together. They went all through the Colonial School Districts, graduated PW, and graduated Penn State together. We have so many topics to cover, so I'm just going to get started right away. Again, hi Sean, and welcome. Cloudy day here in the burbs, but we're just going to make the best of it between the holidays, celebrating, seeing old friends, which is so cool. Um,
Hey man, it's an absolute pleasure, and what an introduction! It's crazy how full circle life comes. So it's a pleasure. I appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. So let's get started by introducing you to the listeners.
Yeah.
Can you share with us your path of how you got started in digital marketing? Because that's really what Momentum 360 is. So go ahead and sort of share your path with us.
Yeah, so it's a great story, Sharon. I'll kind of take a back step. So, Momentum, we do a lot of digital marketing, property marketing. I'm really on the content side. We work with a lot of awesome realtors like yourself, a lot of brokers, and we essentially do listing photography, but also social media management and building that brand. And I'll tell you a quick story. So, when I was at Penn State, I was a freshman and I was really looking for my path in the world. I didn't really have an understanding. I wanted to be an engineer actually, because it's, oh my gosh, $85,000 starting salary, so much money. But I actually hated the classes and I was so just confused, and I was not on a good track, to be honest with you. So I started checking out Gary Vee and a lot of other digital marketers. And I just said to my roommate at the time, Zach Fudgko, I just burst out and say, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly what I want to do. So I was talking to my advisor at the time. Her name was Irene Hurd. She gave me a stack of papers, Sharon, that was about 6 inches wide and thick of all these different companies that I could apply for to get an internship with. And on the first page, there was a company called Momentum. And I looked at their website, I checked it out, and my now business partner, Mac, I actually reached out to him. And this is the funny thing, not a lot of people know this. I actually requested an internship, not for that summer, but for the summer after. And he was so confused. He's like, well, why are you trying to do this? Like, let's start you right now. I said, listen, I need to gather skills. I
Yeah.
want to, hone my sales skills, hone digital marketing skills, so I actually can add value to you and the company. Did that year in. I think I was able to sell about 75, 100K in variety different packages, digital marketing packages, etc. That essentially got my start, and I was promoted to a sales manager, director. And in 2020, Sharon, I actually was offered equity in the company, which I now have. And I told Mac at the time, I said, listen, man, I think what would be really nice is if we add another company here, another side company called Momentum 360, where we essentially can work with real estate agents, larger brokerages, etc., doing their listing photography and also, social media management and stuff like that. So it's essentially two companies under one umbrella.
Okay.
Mac runs the digital side, I run the content side, and yeah, it's pretty much how I got my start.
So where are you located?
We're in Center City. We're on 16th and Market.
Okay. So God, you're right in the middle of town where like everybody left in 2020, right?
Oh yeah, it's pretty barren here. There's a lot of missing people for sure.
Yeah. Well, before I get started, like backtracking into how I really got us on this podcast, I'm just going to ask the next question, which is, um, I know marketing is one of the major keys to sales, and that's why I'm so involved in marketing. Where
Yeah.
do you see the digital marketing space growing in the future?
So, let me set the record straight. I think I'm one of the better people to talk about this question. A lot of people have different opinions. In my estimation, Sharon, I think that AI is really going to take a precedent into the new year. I don't think it's there yet in regards to creating, certain blog topics, written content, because if you're creating blog topics, I don't want to get too granular here, but Google is actually penalizing AI written content. So what I think a lot of people need to do is first, before AI and anything, learn the skill of creating, blogs, creating these pages, and then allow AI to assist you with that. I see so many people just have AI think, oh, it can do everything for me. And while it can do a lot, if you don't have that skill, it's not going to work. So AI is definitely going to be a key player in a lot of different avenues: software, sales, marketing, etc. I think having just a Google business profile in 2024 is going to be very, very important. A lot like realtors like yourself who are
Yeah.
crushing it, have a lot of happy clients. They need to have that. That is an absolute staple. It's like having a website now. If you don't have a website, what are you doing? That's kind of how a Google business profile is. It's very,
Yeah.
very important. And then a third thing I would say is just a very strong presence on social media. Even if you are kind of agnostic about creating content, divulging into a plan, being consistent, and just being you. I'm not saying you need to be the next Tony Robbins, but telling stories that have helped you to get to the place you can be at, and where you've come from, I think is so powerful, because authenticity is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people miss in social media nowadays.
So I'm going to give you a little plug here. We sort of found each other at this stage of our lives because you are doing this content work specifically, most specifically for real estate agents. So it was like I was one of those people that was like surfing and da 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 and out there, and all of a sudden found you because your content is so good. So I've sort of been stalking you and your content, and really am behind it. I've been independently selling real estate now for 10 years. And, if I'm here to talk with some real estate agents here, I do a lot of social media. I do all my own most of my own marketing except for print, creative. And it is so important to mix in everything exactly like you're talking about. Most people on here know me well enough and they follow me and they know that I'm very, very personal. I mix everybody knows Louie, my puppy. Everybody knows my kids. They
Right.
know my family. They know I play tennis. They know all these things about me. But you got to mix it in. Some people just go ahead and pay a third party to just do all of their social media, and they don't mix any personal life along with it. And to me, that is it's a turn off. Just like swipe, 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 like total turn off. So I love your
Exactly.
stuff. I love this morning I was noticing again the two words that I sort of wrote down is motivation and positivity. So you're a Gary V guy. I know Gary V. My kids follow Gary V. Totally motivational. It's cool stuff though, like because it's practical and it's really simple. It's really straight. You're not like going around the bend. You're just going right at it, which truthful and honesty to me also means so much in marketing and everything that salespeople have to do. We have to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. So that's my big plug. At the end, you're going to be able to tell people like how they can find you,
Yeah.
etc. Um, One of the things I sort of wanted to bring up here, I wanted to take the opportunity to say, like, you're my key demographic, right? First time home buyers, young people. I know you're only 25. You think maybe, you're not ready to buy a house, but people at your age are buying houses. They're starting to get married. They're starting to, think about the future. Believe me, 30 is around the corner. So, what are you telling your friends that are colleagues that are your age that when they're asking you about the real estate market? Because I know you read about it every day. So, what advice are you giving them?
Well, Sharon, I'll be honest with you. In 2021, I became an investor. I house hacked. I bought a property in what was it, Old Kensington, and I bought three houses in 2021. And then I bought a condo in Puerto Rico that I have as an investment property. So currently, right now, I have about six properties, majority of them in Philadelphia. And I got to tell you, I bought at a really good time. Rates were very low,
Yeah.
prices weren't too crazy, and I was able to capitalize. Now I'm telling my friends pretty much what every real estate agent is saying and kind of echoing is it's the best time to buy that it's ever going to be. And I think that's such a true statement because if you look at where the market's heading, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but rates are going to just get a little bit lower next year, but prices are going to skyrocket with that rate decrease. So I think, people are like, oh, well, I'm looking forward to these rates. And it's like, sure, that is true if you're looking to refinance, right? But if you're looking to buy, I think you're going to kind of hit a little stalemate where if you're looking for a lower mortgage payment, it's going to come tough if you're trying to wait. So I tell one of my best friends, actually, his name's Mike in Long Island, and I know there's different markets there,
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
York and Philly, but I tell him the same thing. I'm like, hey man, there's never been a better time right now to park your money. I'm not going to put it in cryptocurrency. I'm not going to put it in the stock market. Sure, those are good vehicles for sure, but for me, I like to go off of what I know the best. I think Dave Ramsey has a really good quote, and he says, you want to have the percentage of your investments matching the percentage of knowledge that you actually have. So for me, a majority of that is real estate. So I want to park a majority of my money of what I
Yeah.
actually know into that investment vehicle.
So, just to hit my side of this conversation, fully agree. So you're sort of thinking a little bit from the more of the investment side, and that is, that's a good perspective. My perspective is always going to be a little bit more in your final use, single use, your person's you living in the house. And
Yeah.
of course, I've been dealing the last year, a little over a year when the interest rates started to hike up last fall, with people waiting for the interest rates to go down. And boy, as you watch, so that first 6 months, so it was the second half of 2022, the prices were still increasing almost 20% at that point. And this past year, they probably in this region that I work, probably only went up about 5 to 7%. Okay.
Mm.
But still, they went up 5 to 7%.
Yeah.
Next year, they are probably going to go up about the same amount, which means that yes, the interest rates are going up, but honestly, you got to get in because the pricing
Yeah.
is continuing to go up. Um, the interest rates will eventually, if you look at history, they're going to get more normalized, probably in the 5 to 6% range. But that 3% range was really just connected to the pandemic. It was an unheard of number. Eventually people are going to realize that they have to move on because that's just an unheard of number. And if you want to buy your first house or buy your larger house because you've done really well, this is as good of a time as any. It's not going to get better, right? So my little plug.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just a side note, I think a lot of people nowadays, like with the pandemic, it messed up a lot of things. And I think for a lot of consumers, people are spending more money than ever nowadays, right? So I think like to be able to actually sit, people are, oh, well, it's very expensive because they don't have the money. So it's like, well, just taking a step back and reevaluating expectations to say, hey, maybe I can cut out certain subscriptions here, there, and hand raised. I did this too because I'm noticing, hey, like I'm doing okay for myself, but at the same time, I need to be cognizant of on my side as an investor and also as a homeowner, what do I need emergency fund wise? You know what I mean? I think it's very important to have that emergency fund and to have that bank. And listen, I do continue investing in real estate into 2024. So I definitely need money for a down payment and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be put together. You just have to have a plan. You have to talk
Yes.
to smart people. You have to be diligent about, taking your notes and making your plan, but it can definitely be done.
Yeah.
Um, Moving on to just a little bit more on the personal side, because this podcast was really originally designed not about real estate. It was really designed about the Philly suburbs and really mostly Plymouth Whitemarsh. So I sort of wanted to ask you, you've lived here, I think, besides college, your whole life too, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So share with us some of your favorite places in our community. What do you love to do?
Well, in the Lafayette Hill, Whitemarsh area, I mean, if you're going to, any pizza place and, you need a quick slice and it's fantastic and you have good, customer service, you have good banter, just like real Italian roots, you're going to Vino's Pizza. You're seeing Pasquale, you're getting a whole pie. I work for the guy and I can tell you firsthand, he He's crazy,
You get
but
his
he's one of
coupons. You get his coupons.
coupons out the wazoo. I mean, anything. I mean, if you want traditional Italian pizza and Italian just culture, you go to Vino's Pizza. That's one of my favorite spots. Honestly, I love that. Um, what we talked about earlier on, playing baseball and a lot of other sports. I think Miles Park, the big park over in Whitemarsh, is, I find myself when I'm going back, for the holidays, I take a nice quick walk there.
Yeah.
I'm doing runs. I mean, in 2020, when I was still living with my folks, Sharon, I was running wild up in there. I was running 5 miles a day through Miles Park. So I think that's such a staple.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and a third one, I think, you know, you can't go wrong with the old ale house. I don't know if this is a new thing, but for me, it's such a good staple. It's such like very family welcoming, wholesome type of restaurant where, if you want a good solid roast beef sandwich with cheese, you can't beat that. I mean, that's one of my favorite spots.
Can
It's
you tell that I'm
unbelievable.
all swollen because I was there last night? So I had it is I had been working on getting Chris Bass, the
Yeah,
owner of Ale House, to be on this podcast because he was really one of my original thoughts behind this podcast is really talking to like the heart of Whitemarsh. So to me, the heart of Whitemarsh is exactly what you just said. Like raised my kids in this community, played baseball at Miles Park, went to Vino's, but really went to the Ale House because that way the
yeah,
parents could drink too.
exactly. Right.
And had our roast beef and cheese and wings and fries and etc. last night. And so we walk in, there was an hour wait at the Ale House.
No way.
Like
Oh my
everybody
God.
was out just celebrating, hanging out. It was whatever, it was raining. It was fabulous. It was
Good for them.
mayhem. The place hasn't changed for anybody who's listening who isn't aware. It's called Ye Old Ale House on Germantown Pike in Lafayette Hill. And one seriously fresh cut roast beef right in front of your eyes. Don't expect glam. It is not. It is the opposite of glam. It has not changed since I was a child. My parents used to take me from Villanova over there for roast beef. Um,
Wow.
but definitely one of my favorite spots. But that whole like triple play that you just talked about, like literally hanging out. I mean, you grew up a little bit further down Germantown, not on
Yeah.
Warner, right? Yeah. So like there's just something to be said about this little community that you were raised in and I raised my family in. And there's a lot of little communities like that all over the Philadelphia suburbs that have their Miles Park and
Yeah.
have their walkability, and the kids are riding bikes, hopefully safely. Walking for a slice of pizza. And right next to the pizza joint is the little Wawa, like the smallest Wawa in history is still there.
Sharon, I got to be honest with you. I feel so blessed and grateful to have grown up in the community that I did because all the kids are now grown up. And when I was there growing up myself, we had block parties. Everyone was. I just feel like everyone was more, together, and it was such a beautiful time. And now I feel the same way where it's the next generation
Yeah.
and people are building more families. And White Marsh, and I'm dating now, and I think, you know, I'm thinking big picture here, and I wouldn't want to live in a place that's too different than White Marsh. Just such a wholesome community, has greenery, has a little bit of luxury mystique to it. It's just such a great community. I think it's very underrated in the
Well, it's
Philadelphia
funny.
community.
I'm gonna sort of talk real estate for a second.
Yeah,
It's really not underrated. I mean, the schools are eights and nines. They're not tens out of 10 in greatschools.org. But it is this area, this specific region really grew in value a lot more than other areas. It is such a hotbed right now for buyers. It is insane. It is insane. I mean, if you look at what we have, our proximity to the city and the highways is just, I don't know if there's a better area than this area because we're not just the main line that's on the Schuylkill Expressway. Being here, you're on the Schuylkill and you're on the Turnpike and you're on the Blue Route and you have access to everywhere in the state of Pennsylvania. Um, our school system is very good in the public school systems. We all know we did okay. The kids did okay.
uh-huh.
But then there's also a ton of private schools surrounding us just within within
Oh
a
yeah.
couple miles. The country clubs that are here, the greenery, the community. There are a couple other communities that are also like really these huge surprises these days. Springfield Township, Montgomery County is another one that's just they have sunk so much money into their it's right next door to us. It's right like
Yeah.
Whitmore, Flower Town. They've sunk so much money in their township. Almost every school and township building is younger than 10 years old, and it's really small. It's almost private school size. So it's another really cool community, and it's a couple miles further east of us. So there's a lot to talk about, like for people your age that are considering these type of communities, maybe ones that they were raised in, looking for something either similar or something a little bit more community based that I could talk to them about. It gets me going. Like that's where my
Yeah.
mindset is when I work with buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, what they're looking for that thing. So yeah, I agree, and I love your triple play. Definitely 100% with you on the triple play. Um,
And listen, with the Union League, now that that's finally finished, I mean, I don't want to go too far away from that. Like I'm a big golf fan. It's
do you
unbelievable.
play over at Liberty Hill?
So what's funny, Sharon, a little side note, I actually did a shoot for them
Oh,
in the summertime, and one of my good friends, his name's Brett. He actually, was a member there as well. So
yeah.
it's in the works, but yeah, it's in the works.
Really cool space over there.
Gorgeous.
They've done some nice updating, very Union League style, of
Yeah.
course. Very, very good. So let's start to wrap this up. But this is your time. So let's do a plug for Momentum 360. I want you to talk about your free trial or with you or whatever it is. Give that a plug and offer find out how folks can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, what we're doing is, and this offer isn't going away anytime soon. I'm doing this for the entire year of
Okay.
2024. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a business owner, and you're lacking a social media presence or just a digital presence, what I'm doing, Sharon, is I'm actually hosting one-on-one calls for a full 30 minutes where I'm taking a complete audit of what you're doing, syncing it with my strategy, specifically with content and digital marketing, and creating a quick little blueprint that they can use themselves. And it's something that's totally free, just looking to add value. And if you want to redeem that, all you need to do is go to momentumvirtualtours.com. There's going to be a quick little button where you can book a free growth call with me, and that's it. So momentumvirtualtours.com. You can just Google Momentum 360 as well on Google, and you'll be able to find that no problem.
It'll bring you back there. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I did it. And it is especially this time of year. This is always like my fresh start, January 1st. Perfect time to continue figuring out how to build your social footprint. So that's awesome. So it is now time to turn the table. I always allow my podcast guests to ask me a question on their mind. So go ahead.
Yeah. And it's a kind of two-parter, Sharon, but I'm always looking for advice and feedback and just guidance, not only in my professional life, but also personal as well. And when you were my age,
Yeah.
I'm in my mid 20s, I'm doing okay for myself. What advice would you give me to consistently be able to do my thing and work as hard as I can, but also to not glamorize other people, to be able to kind of stay in my own lane and do that consistently? Because I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of things that I'm doing, a lot of young people can relate to this. They're looking on Instagram, all the Lamborghinis, all the Ferraris, especially us entrepreneurs, and they're like, well, why am I not at this point? But then we forget that we're at such a good point ourselves, and we start to compare. So what advice would you give, a mid-20s, you know, man or woman to really focus on just that one lane mentality?
Well, I mean, this may go a little opposed to your business, but people have to be cautious as to how their usage of social media. Um, Especially those that have the tendency to compare and not have, as much confidence. So, social media, we're all putting out mostly glitz and glamour, very few of us. I will say I've noticed a lot more recently, and it's maybe because it's a friend of mine that does this, but people talking about depression, people talking about real mental, status issues, and not like super depressing, but just that they're real, and it's common, and it's nothing to feel badly about. So that's something really positive I'm starting to see on social media. But if you're starting to compare yourself too much, just back out of it a little bit. Um, I was your age, there was no social media, clearly. So I
Yeah.
have to really give you more my opinion of in my life today. And it's always being thrown at me. I mean, we all know at least 10,000 real estate agents, right? So there's always that comparison. And oh, I just sold this house and I sold that house. And I guess the real answer to that question is I go with my gut. Go with my gut in everything that I do. I was telling you a little bit of the story about how I ended up starting this podcast. And part of it was I was looking to add something to my social media. And what I was seeing a lot of real estate agents doing was these reels and funny stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I tried it and I was getting nothing. I just was getting no love. I was getting no, like, it wasn't me. And I don't even remember why I thought podcast. And I said, oh, let me just try this. I talked to one or two friends that do it and found out, like, literally go to Zoom, press record, and test it out. And the first one I did, I watched it back and I said, oh, that's a good gut feeling. That's a good thing. And I'm really enjoying having these conversations. And I'm hoping that as it continues, I just keep bringing new people to listening to me. But I'm sorry, that was a long story and a plug. I didn't really mean to go there.
Well, that's great. I think a lot of people can resonate with that, and it's almost therapeutic in the sense that you're able to talk to somebody one on one, and you're able to learn more about them. But I feel like
Yeah.
in return, you also learn a little bit more about yourself as well with that. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Did you have a second question? You said that there was a second part.
That was it. You
Okay,
answered
cool. I killed
everything
them
I thought.
both.
Yeah, you
Killed
killed it
them
both.
both. Okay, cool. So yeah, lesson is go with your gut for sure.
Yeah.
Don't do anything that there are so many options out there that you can do to promote yourself and your business and to communicate with people that if something isn't feeling good, get out. There's another lane
Yeah.
would be my thought. Well, I wanted to thank you, Sean Boyle, for being my guest on the podcast. I'm hoping the people that are going to be listening to us found a lot of really pertinent information here. So I wanted to remind everybody you can go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, which is Life in the Suburbs with Sharon. Um, was there any other contact information, Sean, that you wanted to share with our listeners before we head out?
That was pretty much it. Just go to my website, momentumvirtualtours.com, and you'll be all
Okay.
set up.
Yeah. And I would also really highly recommend to follow Sean on whatever your channel is that you use. LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, because his posts are really great. So, if you're looking for some inspiration, in positivity, I would definitely say just start to check him out and get to know him a little bit. And again, thank you. Have a great day and see you next time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.